Get a chance to talk about last week's mock draft. So here I am with Jamie and Heath on this Monday afternoon to discuss some, controversial picks, and I'm going to make these guys justify it. I'm Adam Azer, Jamie Eisenberg, and Heath Cummings are here. We're going to just go over some of the things that Jamie and Heath and Dave did not talk about on Thursday. Thank you guys for stepping up. Jamie, thank you for filling in. How we doing? I went on Tron.
You like it?
Yeah. Have you been?
Not yet, no.
Oh, it's really fast. It's really fast.
I actually had somebody tweet me last week. I'm going to have to make sure that I put the link of this episode. They actually tweeted me and said, "Would you please go ride Tron and then talk about it on the podcast? I need to know how good it is." So you did it.
Yeah, it was actually like Space Mountain better. I forgot how awesome Space Mountain was, but Tron is over really quickly. It's very short. It's fast in two ways. You just go from 0 to 60 almost instantly, and it's pretty awesome. And who has been in a roller coaster like that where you're basically on your stomach in a motorcycle. So that was interesting. It was very fun. And but it was very quick. That was my only, I guess, not even a complaint. Just the only thing bad about it is it's over before you know it. But it was awesome. So if you're in Orlando, check out Tron. Yeah,
I do like though that you are back in the studio. And Heath, the last week when Adam was in the studio, he was dressed in a button-down shirt, clean shaven. I believe he's wearing makeup too, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
Nope. You look like you were in makeup. Now he's back again. As you see, a little dressed down.
Yeah, I'm wearing a t-shirt. I put on my collared shirt and it was really wrinkled. I was like, forget it. I'm just wearing a t-shirt. All right, listen. First thing I want to ask, Jamie, have we ever met? You drafted for me last week with my name, which is a bit, I let you do it. Big responsibility. Do you even know me? Joe Burrow in round 3. One pick after Hurts, Mahomes, Allen. You gave me Burrow there. Heath criticized my pick, and I didn't even make it. And that's your fault. I can't believe you did that. Do you know anything about me?
Well, as I explained, I know you like Joe Burrow, and given that there was a run on quarterbacks, I didn't want you to miss out on getting a guy that you, I think, are fond of. So I was trying to do justice by you. So I apologize if that's not the move that you would have made.
I would say, I think it's clear that Jamie doesn't know you as well as you know Jamie. He's not looked through the crack of the bathroom stall. You're a little more intimate knowledge of us than we do of you.
That's true.
I guess he has never seen my rankings. All right, well, I would not have taken him there. I may have taken Joe Burrow in the 4th round, but not in the 3rd round. One thing to promote real quick, then we'll get into the news items here, and we'll get into the Justify It segment of the show. The UEFA Champions League on Paramount Plus is down to the final 4 teams and 2 epic semifinal matchups. Defending champs Real Madrid take on tournament favorite Manchester City in a rematch of last year's thrilling semifinal. Plus, it's a clash of Italian titans as Inter squares off against AC Milan in a battle for City bragging rights. Find out which clubs will reach the ultimate goal in soccer's greatest yearly competition. Stream every Champions League semifinal match live exclusively on Paramount Plus. Try it free at ParamountPlus.com/live sports. And hopefully I did not butcher any of those soccer team names. News and notes. Chicago offensive coordinator Luke Getsy said that Justin Fields is light years ahead of where he was going into the 2022 season. And one of the things he's been better at is his footwork. And that's something also I was reading about Sam Howell in Washington being pretty high on Sam Howell, an ESPN.com article about that. And he said, the footwork was something that he had to learn too. So it's not something that we probably see with our eyes when we're watching football, but it's a big part of the game and these young quarterbacks getting better there. So Justin Fields, light years ahead of where he was this time a year ago. I just thought it was interesting. Jamie didn't want me to bring this up. I'm going to bring it up. Lamar Jackson, he said, they asked why he made his trade request, why he demanded a trade. He said it was just a negotiating ploy. He did it just to get the ball moving basically on the contract. So that all's well that ends well.
Sounds like he acted like he was his own agent.
Yeah, did pretty well for himself.
He did. A lot of agents, according to reports, very praiseworthy of the job Lamar Jackson did for himself.
Nice. Nick Kosmider of The Athletic covers the Broncos. He thinks that, Heath, what do you make of this? Denver head coach Sean Payton will have a very specific role for rookie wide receiver Marvin Mims, even if it's not a high volume role. What does that suggest to you?
that the Broncos traded up into the second round to draft a wide receiver that they thought was good, and that I think he will have a role even if he doesn't earn a large volume role. Maybe is the way to look at it. I didn't take it as he won't have a high volume role, but if Sutton and Judy remain the 1 and 2, they have something specific that they have for Mims to do. Maybe the KJ Hamler role, which KJ Hamler was hardly on the field enough to say exactly what his role was, but I would think the deep ball specialist.
Yeah, Mims did not get drafted in the in the draft that we did last week. But Cortland Sutton was Shafee T. Thomas Schaefer picked him in round 11. Jamie, that was, I thought, pretty late for Sutton. I wasn't expecting him to go 124th overall. What did you think of that?
It's great value, and look, it's the first draft we did post NFL draft. So, it was, I think a lot of people still just processing information and trying to figure out, okay, where some of these guys fit. And, for a player like Sutton and factoring in Russell Wilson, the negative side, also you have to factor in Sean Payton, the positive side, just what changes are going to take place in Denver. Not to go down this path again about what Marvin Mims will do to impact the Broncos guys, but I do think that it is going to impact these guys in some way, whether it's Judy, Sutton, Dulcich, Patrick, whoever it's going to, hurt, it's going to hurt. But also I think, from Sean Payton's perspective, he signed a pretty significant contract to be there. And so whether this is a 2023 draft pick or a 2024 draft pick, essentially where they're going to have him play a bigger role next year, that could just be something that you're looking at. But yeah, for Sutton in round 11, that's just, great value for somebody who probably playing for a new deal, may still be auditioning for a new team. If they're out of it, by the trade deadline, he could be shipped to another team, midseason. So we still could see that in play as well. So, but yeah, I think Sutton is still in play for fantasy managers as a number 3 receiver. To get him that late, probably as a 4 or 5 is pretty good.
There was one more piece of Justin Fields news as well, Adam. He, I believe, received his degree from the Ohio State University.
Nice.
Hey, congratulations. A couple other rookie items here. Josh Downs, UNC wide receiver, now with the Colts. He had a great rookie camp, according to Kevin Bowen, of 1075. The Fan. Josh Downs had a great rookie camp. And Sean McVay said that rookie running back Zach Evans has a nice skill set that complements Cam Akers. Okay, and the Jets signed Randall Cobb, and they are apparently going to keep Corey Davis on the team. Heath, Garrett Wilson went in the middle of round 2 in the draft last week. Was that too early? It was before the Randall Cobb news, which of course has no effect, but it was also before the news about Corey Davis staying on the team. He's got that size that I guess Robert Saleh wants on the squad. So Garrett Wilson went 18th overall, 1 pick before Amon-Ra St. Brown and a bunch of running backs.
Yeah, I can't take him ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown or A.J. Brown. I wouldn't take him ahead of T. Higgins or Jaylen Waddle or Davante Smith. I've got Garrett Wilson at 24th. I think he has the upside to justify that pick. I think he has the upside to be worth a first-round pick this year. But I'm just enough nervous about where the Aaron Rodgers targets are going to go and the, 15%, 20% chance that this is just a complete disaster.
Okay. Let's play Justify It. I looked at some picks, some trends sort of in this draft, and gonna make you guys justify it even if you didn't make the picks. But first things first, let's talk about the Dolphins passing game. So Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, both top 24 picks. Hill goes 7th overall. Jaylen Waddle goes 22nd overall. Tua Tagovailoa went 114th overall. So justify, Jamie. And honestly, he was QB 10, but he was so far back. He was 40 picks after QB 9, which was Trevor Lawrence. Justify believing in Hill and Waddle, but being so concerned about Tua's injuries, basically, and not knocking the wide receivers.
Well, I think first off, once you get past, and we'll probably see this even in fantasy analyst drafts, the second and third tier quarterbacks are going to fall, so once you get past, I think the top 6 probably, with, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields being 4, 5, and 6 in some order behind Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts. Then I think that next, group, you could say Lawrence, Richardson. So I think, Tua is going to go anywhere between probably 10 and 15, depending on how you view him at quarterback. So he's going to definitely go later than the run on quarterbacks. So factor that into the equation. But I think, you're hoping that he's going to stay healthy. There's no guarantee he's going to stay healthy. So, if he does stay healthy, then this is another incredible steal in this draft, in any draft where he's going to go. But if he does get hurt, that's kind of where you're, okay, did I make a huge mistake? Now, as I said, when we recapped this draft that, Dave was talking about taking Jaylen Waddle, that the backup play last year, he had Teddy Bridgewater in and out because of injuries, and Skylar Thompson, I just don't know if he was ready for the job. Hopefully Mike White is better than both those guys. And if that's the case, then you get still great production from Tyreek Hill, but hopefully great production from Jaylen Waddle as well. So maybe the backup situation is just a little bit better. But I mean, clearly you have to hope that Tua is playing at what was his peak last year, pretty close to it, to keep those guys afloat to where the level of where they're being drafted at.
Yeah, what do you think, Heath? I mean, should we be fading those two Dolphins receivers with the idea that they have? I mean, I don't believe we should, because I don't think Tua is necessarily injury prone. But that depends how people view injuries. But what do you think?
I was going to say that it was a good thing that you gave that one to Jamie to justify, because I have Tua at QB8 ahead of Trevor Lawrence. So I think the problem is there that Tua is going too late.
Okay. Let's justify this one. Jamie, this was your pick. CeeDee Lamb ahead of Davante Adams. Adams had scored 34 more points, 2 more points per game than CeeDee Lamb. They both played 17 games. Lamb did have 7 more catches, but more targets, more yards, more touchdowns for Davante Adams. You made this pick in the second round. Justify it. Lamb ahead of Adams.
Yeah, I have it ranked that way, so I wasn't concerned about the pick. But I'm leaning toward youth. I'm leaning toward I still have a better quarterback. Maybe situation is not as good just because of what Mike McCarthy said, that they're not going to throw as much. But I do think, again, as I explained, that McCarthy tried to walk that back after the first time he said it. So I think both these guys are going to lead their team in targets. I think both their guys are going to be, absolute superstars. It's just a matter of, one guy is, 30 plus, one guy is, entering his prime, entering, contract situation, as they just picked up his 5th-year option, or I believe they did. But I think CeeDee Lamb is got the ability to be not to the level of what Davante Adams was at his best, but in that next tier where I think Adams is going to start to fade a little bit. So this is one where one guy on the rise, I think one guy on the decline. Not that he's going to decline to the point where he can't be a still great fantasy option, because I do think he's worth taking in the second round. But I think CeeDee Lamb's trajectory is a little bit better for me than where Adams is right now.
Yeah, I've got Adams just slightly ahead in the projections, but I had Lamb higher as well. I'd prefer to draft Lamb. It's the age thing. And I do think, I think Lamb was at a 28% target share last year. I wouldn't be surprised with McCarthy fully taking over the offense if that goes over 30% for Lamb this year in terms of target share.
Yeah, but I guess the counter would be Brandon Cooks is more target competition than Dalton Schultz, because I think Schultz was second on the team in receiving last year. It is no, I don't know that that's true, but right. I mean Schultz was second on the team in receiving, and
I know what I'm saying is I think that's you have to. I don't like to expect bounce backs from receivers that are Brandon Cook's age. We've talked about that before.
Yeah,
and he was not particularly good last year. I think Nico Collins is better than him last year.
I think also, though, you look at it, there probably is more target competition in Dallas because they are talking up Michael Gallup again, for whatever that's worth, but a year removed from his ACL tear. We'll see what they get out of their tight end position, whether it's going to be Ferguson or Schoonmaker, right? The rookie that they drafted. And still maybe Jalen Tolbert has a role. Obviously, again, Brandon Cooks is there. So there's moving parts in Dallas, plus you have a different running game, just without Zeke there. So will they put more on Tony Pollard, or as, McCarthy said, it's just about, how the ball is distributed differently. Is it more in the passing game, short area throws, as opposed to, some of those inside runs that they were doing? Who knows? It's all going to be split up. But I think, if you just want to break it down as simple as you can, both of the alphas on their team, for me, it's age. And the other part of it is quarterback. And Dak Prescott is a much better scenario for Adams for Lamb than Garoppolo is for Adams.
All right, let's justify where the quarterbacks were drafted. The first 4. Well, I mean the first 3. Jamie just didn't know anything about me and drafted Joe Burrow a little bit earlier than I would have. But at least those first 3 in the middle of round 3. Jalen Hurts 29, Patrick Mahomes 30.
You would have taken him in round 4. It would have been like 5 picks apart.
Yeah, but I would have gotten who did I take in round 4? For who did you take for me? Aaron Jones?
The end of round 3 is basically the beginning of round 4.
Right, and as Heath said, if we had done it differently, he thinks Aaron Jones should be a round 3 pick. So
I don't know who I would have taken if not Burrow there. I probably would have taken DeAndre Hopkins. In round 3, he went before my next pick in round 4. He went 37th overall. Anyway, so Hurts 29, Mahomes 30, Allen 32, Burrow 33. Let's just assume it was those top 3. And you guys already discussed the order of it on Thursday's show, but I thought we were on round 2 with these guys. I thought they were going to be round 2 picks. I feel like they were. I was trying to look it up. I couldn't do it. I feel like they were round 2 picks in our post free agency mock draft. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Not all.
No, just the 3 of them.
No.
Okay.
1 or 2 got into it, but yeah.
All right. Well, I'm still surprised that they made it to 29 overall. So you're talking about, over Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry and Jaylen Waddle, Travis Etienne, T. Higgins, Mark Andrews, Davante Smith, Chris Olave. That was Dave's pick at 27. Ramondre Stevenson. All these guys were taken before those quarterbacks. So justify it, Heath. Why didn't these guys go in round 2? They're studs and they're proven studs.
Because they are all so close together that if you are in the second half of round 2, you can feel pretty comfortable one of those guys is going to be there early in round 3. So you take your favorite running back or your wide receiver, and then you just, if 2 of them get taken, you take whichever of the 3's left. That it would be different, and I think people viewed it this way last year, that Josh Allen was kind of in a tier of his own, and then it was Mahomes and the rest of the guys because Allen had been QB1 2 years in a row. But I think right now we view Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, in whatever order you want to put them in, as a real top tier. And so if you're at the end of round 2 and all 3 of them are still there, there's no reason to take one until round 3.
Is that how you saw it, Jamie?
I mean, I have a different view of this because I'm not going to be all of a sudden rushing to take one of these quarterbacks. That's just not the way I'm going to draft. And I know last year was a little different in terms of only 4 guys going over 25 points per game, with the guy that you took 4th being the low one at 25. But Burrow, Allen, Hurts, and Mahomes averaging 25 plus, with the other 3 closer to 30, clearly. But I think we're going to get a bounce back season from the position. And so I think you have Lamar Jackson in this incredible situation now, has a chance to be 25 plus. I think Justin Fields, with what he's going to do with his legs, has a chance to be 25 plus. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to take a huge leap. He has a chance to be 25 plus. And then maybe you get the one that I don't want to say not expecting, but maybe not counting on it, at least me not counting on it, in an Anthony Richardson or a Tua staying healthy, or one of these type of guys, that has that type of leap. And so for me, I'm going to wait. So no, I would not draft these guys in round 2. I do think, though, if you're at the back end of round 2, and clearly, again, as we've said many a time over the years on the show, that if you're not getting these players back, and clearly you're not going to get a quarterback of that caliber at the 4-5 swing as opposed to the 2-3 swing, and you just don't love anybody there, then you should pull the trigger on it. So round 3 is where I have these guys ranked. Again, I'll probably be one of the lower people in the industry on it, but I'm still fine with it. I think, again, the position will get not watered down to where the talent pool is a little bit more equal, but we will get probably, as we saw 2 years ago, more guys in that 25 plus range than we saw last year.
Anthony Richardson, I know you guys talked about it on Thursday, but that draft pick, that was bonkers. That was completely bonkers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, how?
So
he went ahead of Justin Herbert. He went 2 picks ahead of Justin Herbert. Right. Went ahead of Trevor Lawrence. He not Lamar Jackson though, right?
No.
Okay, no, he went around after that, but so he went 60th.
I don't think he went ahead of anybody that has more upside than him.
I mean, you don't think? I mean, Justin Herbert was QB2 in 2021, or maybe he's QB3. I think he was QB2, right? I mean, how can we not say that Justin Herbert is more upside than Anthony Richardson?
Wasn't that the down year for quarterback scoring at the top?
No, last year was the down year for quarterback scoring.
Well, no, they were around 30. The guys at the top. It was down for the bottom half of the top 12 last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
Let's see. 2021.
Last year, the 5th quarterback in total points averaged 20 points per game.
Yeah. Herbert averaged 26.2 points per game. He threw 38 touchdowns.
So that's about 85% of what Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Hurts have shown the ability to do, or maybe 90% of Hurts.
Right, but I mean, I think
a big difference, and I think Richardson has the 30-point upside.
I don't know. I mean, okay, but in 2020, Aaron Rodgers averaged 29.9 points per game.
Yep.
The Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes seasons from what 5 and 6 years ago, or 4 and 5 years ago, sorry, whatever it was. I don't think we can expect that from anyone, right? Lamar Jackson did it in 2019, 32.5 fantasy points. 2018, Patrick Mahomes was 32.2 fantasy points. We're not really expecting that. I mean, I understand that they've done that before, but I can't really sit there and say that's their upside. That's probably going to be their best season.
Well, yeah,
but
Mahomes
I just
was at 29 last year.
Yeah, but okay, fine. So 20, right? That's fine. So will you think that Richardson can get to 29? Mahomes threw 41 touchdowns. Like I just don't see how Richardson has more upside than Justin Herbert in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. There's more to the fantasy quarterback play than rushing.
I think but it's if you're just using the word upside, Richardson has more upside because if he does throw for 3,500 yards and runs for 1,000 yards, which would be amazing and probably hard to expect.
Yeah.
But as we see, these guys continue to evolve, again, what did Fields have last year? 2,200 and 1,100 rushing. So you start to maybe scale back one of the two numbers, from what I said, 35 and 1,000. So let's say it's 3,000 and 1,000. Is that crazy?
Okay, I guess I'd have to do math now, but if somebody wants to do this, 3,000 and 1,000, how does that compare to 5,000 passing yards and 350 rushing yards? Because that's definitely within Herbert's upside. And then it's going to come down to touchdowns and interceptions, and Herbert's going to smash Richardson there. And I don't know. I can't. Just for a guy who's such a raw prospect who had a 53% completion rate, for him to come in and be a great quarterback,
I think it's very likely. His floor and his most likely outcome are way behind Herbert's.
But even to take that word though, to be a great quarterback, I think he just has to be a great fantasy player. Because he could still be a 50% completion guy and still get to those numbers. As ugly as it may look at times. Because Fields struggled as a passer and still was great as a rusher. So. He doesn't have elite talent around him, but he does have the right coach. A guy that just got an MVP caliber season out of Jalen Hurts and Shane Steichen. And I think it's just like I would take Herbert personally. I think Heath would as well. But it's just a matter of when you have to attach the word to something and you're attaching the word upside to it. If he hits all of those check marks, which is unrealistic, you just have to factor that in. But if he does, if he does have that Lamar Jackson second season performance, if he does have that Patrick Mahomes first year starting season performance, those things are anomalies for a reason, but if they do happen, then you're going to be thrilled about it. So, I understand where Jacob Gibbs was doing when he drafted him, again, picking on an end and not having the opportunity to probably get him coming back. That's a gamble. But I think Lawrence has more upside. I think Herbert has more upside, so I would take those guys, but it's a matter of if you think that player, forget about who it is, has that type of ability, then you got to buy into it and just hope it's going to hit. And at the position that we're talking about, there's so many good fallback options, especially if you know who you're drafting with. And Jacob knows that we're not all going to take two quarterbacks. So
are there that many good fallback options though? Because there weren't last year.
Yeah, well, you say that though, but Jared Goff was a good fallback option. Geno Smith was a good fallback option.
Great.
You're talking about when you're talking about relative to the position. There were 4 guys that were over 25 points per game. So 4 people in your league were playing at a different level than everybody else. Everybody else is playing from that other pool, and while the averages for the season are a little different, Justin Fields had that 6-7 game stretch where he was 25 plus. Geno Smith had that stretch where he was over 25. Jared Goff had a stretch where he was hot. So it's just a matter of you can do it at the right time and still be successful.
Yeah, but you can say that, you can make that optimistic case, but that it was a bad year for quarterbacks.
It absolutely was a bad year for quarterbacks,
But they were all bad. Is that what you're saying? They were all bad. So it wasn't, if you were streaming a quarterback, you weren't.
The question you asked was there a fallback option? And we just have to look how they compared to the quarterbacks last year. And Tua, Geno Smith, Lawrence, there were lots of guys who ended up finishing as low-end starting quarterbacks who were drafted in the double-digit rounds.
Yeah, I know. But they didn't really help you win a fantasy league.
And they helped you win a lot more than Justin Herbert did.
Yeah, Justin Herbert was a bust, absolutely. But I mean,
I have it in front of me because I wrote this for the first bust column. So Fields was the number 6 quarterback at points per game. His ADP on CBS was around 12. Tua's ADP was around 11. He was the number 7 quarterback at points per game. Now, again, you're talking low points per game, 21.1 for Fields, 20.1 for Tua. Geno Smith finished 8th in points per game at 20.4, was not drafted. Jared Goff, I'm assuming, was in a similar range. I don't know if I have that in front of me. No, I don't. So
yeah, okay. Honestly, this is like saying that, Jamie, this is like saying I drafted Kyle Pitts, who was a huge bust at tight end, but I streamed Tyler Higbee, who was tight end 6 per game. I streamed, actually, no, that's overall. I streamed Tyler Higbee. I streamed Evan Ingram. I streamed David Njoku, tight end 9 per game. I streamed Pat Freiermuth. Yeah, go ahead.
You're 100% right. It's a matter of how your roster build also comes into play here. So, you took Kyle Pitts in the 3rd round last year, and, him busting. Justin Herbert was probably a great example, comparable, because he was drafted probably early, especially based on, ADP from, most drafts. When those guys bust, it's hard to recover from that, but at this position, when you're talking about if Jacob hits on his first 5 picks, right? And Jacob's a smart fantasy player. So, let's assume that that's the case. He whiffs in round 6 on Anthony Richardson, but the rest of his draft is good. And now he's playing with Geno Smith or Daniel Jones or, Jared Goff or one of these other guys and still getting to that 20-point number on average, or maybe 22, 23, on a good week and 18 or so on a bad week. If the rest of his roster is fine, then it's okay. But if Richardson hits, then he's in a great spot. So it's a matter of cost too.
I would say that hardly anyone is going to hit on all 4 of their first 4 picks. That's just like, go back and look at a fantasy draft. It just rarely happens. But okay, that's fine. Final question here. Just give me real quick. He took Richardson 60th overall. His next pick was 61. But after that, his next pick, Jacob Gibbs' next pick was 84. So Trevor Lawrence went 74th, and this is I referenced this earlier with Tua, and then 40 picks later, Tua went. So Jacob's next pick, 84 and 85, he took Khalil Herbert and James Cook. That was during this big gap where no quarterbacks were taken. If he didn't take Richardson at 60, do you think Richardson would have been there at 84, 85?
I don't know.
I do, yes. I think he would have.
Yeah, I think it would have been close, and I think it might. I wouldn't bet on it either way.
All right, guys, let's take a break here. Justify it. We got to pay the bills. Let's take a break here, and we'll come back. We'll talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, Isiah Pacheco, Mike Williams. I got a lot more here, so we'll go a little rapid fire. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Also, your emails, fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. That's coming up at the end of the show. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. All right, justify it. Jahmyr Gibbs in round 4. Ahead of Dameon Pierce, Joe Mixon, and Dalvin Cook. Jahmyr Gibbs in round 4 PPR ahead of Dameon Pierce, Joe Mixon, and Dalvin Cook. Heath, justify it.
Do I have to?
Would you have done that?
No, I would not. The justification, though, would be that DeAndre Swift's role has been a top 15 worthy in fantasy football when he's been able to stay healthy. And we have reason to believe that Jahmyr Gibbs is better as a pass catcher already than DeAndre Swift is in the NFL. And the Lions just spent an insane amount of draft capital to take Gibbs, which should indicate that they're going to use him a lot. So if Gibbs could have Swift's role and stay healthy and be more efficient as a pass catcher, he's worth a 4th-round pick.
I don't know if I asked you this yet, Jamie, but this Montgomery Gibbs thing reminds me a little bit of James Robinson, Travis Etienne from last year. And you were the high guy on Etienne going into fantasy drafts. Obviously, we needed Robinson to get traded, but it just seemed like they eventually wanted to transition to Etienne. Do you see similarities? What similarities do you see, or how similar do you think these two situations are? Lions this year, Jaguars last year.
The only thing I would say it's not similar is because there was a new coaching staff coming into Jacksonville that inherited that duo, and they also didn't have the luxury of seeing Travis Etienne play the year before. So that's, I think, somewhat, comparable as, NFL, because, Gibbs is coming into his rookie season. But I could see a transition where, Gibbs takes over everything, or a good chunk of everything, not because of a trade, but just because he's a more explosive player than David Montgomery. But I think the Lions want to have a better version of what they had last year, and I think they went about trying to accomplish that, and so they feel like David Montgomery is an upgrade over Jamal Williams, who they loved. I mean, I think as a player and as a locker room presence, they loved Jamal Williams, and I think they were sad to see him go. There were reports about trying to re-sign him, so had he been maybe a little bit cheaper than Montgomery and what he was asking for, I don't know what those numbers were behind the scenes, but I think Montgomery is just a hopefully in their minds a younger version of it, and Jahmyr Gibbs is a healthier version of what DeAndre Swift could be. So the thing that makes me a little bit nervous about Jahmyr Gibbs is everybody from our perspective, fantasy perspective, I haven't heard a lot of this from an NFL perspective, is, his catches in college were so impressive. He led Alabama in receptions. The last time we had a first-round running back who was so good as a pass catcher, do you remember who it was?
Yeah, it's Clyde. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, yeah.
Who was 55 catches on that LSU offense. And granted, it was different because everybody was catching passes on LSU offense. So it's not the same. But that we're getting a little bit enamored by what he can do as a pass catcher. He obviously can catch the football. There's no doubt about that. And I'm not saying he's comparable to Clyde. I'm just talking situation. So I just a little bit concerned that the Lions, they got him at 12. They said they would have taken him at 6. There's still a proven commodity in this backfield that may get all the touchdowns, may not have the pass catching role that should be Gibbs, but they tried to do that with Swift last year. And while he averaged 5.5 yards per carry and was explosive and did all those things, and I know health matters here, but he just didn't, necessarily do it when he was on the field consistently week in, week out. So Gibbs in round 4, I don't mind it. I'm always going to lean toward the younger player that has the more upside, and I think he does. And we discussed this, that Joe Mixon, if he stays on the Bengals, is not going in round 4. There's no way that's happening in fantasy.
Round 5, he went, yeah.
And maybe the same for Dalvin Cook. The Pierce thing is a little bit interesting in this format because while I think we all agree he's going to be the lead running back ahead of Devin Singletary, and he should get the majority of touches, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a significant pass-catching role here. That doesn't mean that he's not going to lose enough touches by comparison to where he was a year ago, because I do think Singletary is a much better number 2 running back than what they had last year. And is also a guy that the same, I think, concerns have to carry over even to his sophomore season, that he did not hold up after being a full-time guy. He was not a full-time guy at Florida in his collegiate career. So can he do it over the course of a full season? So I don't mind Gibbs ahead of him. I would still take Pierce, but that's the one really that I think you can make a case for.
All right, let's talk about Isiah Pacheco, because you guys did this draft basically as or not long after Jerick McKinnon re-signed with the Chiefs.
At least the news that happened, yes, that he was re-signed.
Yeah. So Pacheco went in round 5, 55th overall. Round 5 actually had a lot of running backs. It was the 3 we just talked about: Pierce, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. And then you had 3 non-running backs, and then Isiah Pacheco went. Justify it. Pacheco with his 13 catches last year, going ahead of Rachaad White, Cam Akers, David Montgomery, and Javonte Williams. Heath, you want to justify this one? Isiah Pacheco, 55th overall, ahead of Rachaad White, Cam Akers, David Montgomery, and Javonte Williams.
No, I think the justification would be it's a non-PPR league, and it was not. I would put Pacheco around round 7. I think I have him at RB 29-ish or 30-ish right now. I think that they're like, I don't want to completely say that he doesn't have a chance to earn a larger role in the passing game in his second year. He might do that, but it should be the expectation that he's going to be sharing work on early downs and at least sharing work on passing downs. And the Chiefs don't have a history since Patrick Mahomes got there of just handing the ball off to the same running back 15 times from inside the 5-yard line to get him a lot of rushing touchdowns. So I think Pacheco is a flex unless he really does some things in camp and takes that passing game role that they brought McKinnon back for.
How big of a deal was the re-signing of Jerick McKinnon, Jamie?
I don't think it was a big deal because this is something I think that they've talked about and it was kind of expected. The thing where I think you got to be excited about Pacheco, and I generally agree with Heath, but I think the thing we got to be excited about Pacheco is this is a very, very raw receiving core right now. There's just so many ifs, and they could be huge ifs from a potential standpoint. If Kadarius Toney plays a full season, if Sky Moore takes a huge step, if Raji Rice, however you say it, becomes, a rookie sensation. Clearly right now it's Travis Kelce and a lot of backup singers, so there's a lot of moving parts for a team that just won the Super Bowl. And granted, it was not that different from a year ago, but they did have Mecole Hardman for the majority of the majority of the first half of the season. They had Juju Smith-Schuster for the majority of the season. Those are proven commodities. So maybe they do run the ball a little bit more to try and, let's say, get to November, December, January. So the early part of the season, we could see that. And I think Heath alluded to this when we were breaking this draft down, that, McKinnon is 31. And is he going to handle a heavy workload, even in the passing game, early in the season, to make sure he's fresh for November, December, and January? So I don't think Clyde's going to be that much of a factor. I think they love what they have in Pacheco, and the draft kind of told us that. So maybe there are a few more opportunities. Maybe there is a few more opportunities in the passing game. So for me, I would start to look at him in round 6. I do think round 5 is a little bit too rich. But, again, if you have a feeling on somebody, he is right now in pencil one of their top offensive players. And so to say you're getting one of the top offensive players for the Chiefs, that's not a bad place to be, knowing how creative this offense has been and should continue to be.
It's Isiah Pacheco in round 5 before Rachaad White, Cam Akers, David Montgomery, and Javonte Williams. All right, let's speed it up. Are you ready for Super Fast Justify It? All right, applause sign. Okay, Mike Williams, 69th overall. I know they drafted Quentin Johnston. Justify this, Heath. This is a guy 2 years ago when Justin Herbert was good, when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were healthy, he was wide receiver 18 per game. Now he's barely a 6th-round pick toward the end of round 6. Mike Williams, 69th overall, in between 2 Steelers, George Pickens and Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, I think this is just a little bit higher than I have Williams, but I am right in this range. He needs to go this high because he does have that upside to be a top 20 wide receiver, but he needs to go this low because there's enough concerns with the change in offensive coordinator and the draft selection of Quentin Johnston that his target share could be impacted from last year. So he is a boom or bust number 3 wide receiver.
And would you take the Steelers guys or Mike Williams?
In full PPR, I have the Steelers higher.
Jamie, Steelers guys or Mike Williams?
I still have Mike Williams higher. I'll see what happens come August, but I still think Quentin Johnston has a lot to prove to take Mike Williams off the field.
All right. Next up, Jamie, justify it. Jordan Addison in round 7 ahead of Tyler Lockett. Michael Pittman, that one maybe surprised me a little bit. He fell pretty far, Michael Pittman, into round 7. And Brandon Cooks. So Jordan Addison ahead of Tyler Lockett, Michael Pittman, and Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I know. With all the conversation, and we led off the show talking about this. We even talked to Joe Pisapia on the other show that you missed about, Justin Jefferson slipping from the number 1 spot. There's a lot of expectations for Jordan Addison right now. And, I think he's a super talented player. I think he's going to make a significant impact. But, is he going to command that much more from a target perspective than what Adam Thielen had? He had 107 targets to be second on the team. And so, no, I don't think this is the right spot for Jordan Addison. I think as we, see the typical route for the rookie wide receiver staff success, most of them come in and eventually become the number 1 guy. He's not going to become the number 1 guy. He might not even be second on the team in targets if TJ Hawkinson continues to command a significant amount based on what he did last year. And so some people think even KJ Osborne might have, the first half of the season better situation than Jordan Addison. We'll see. I think he's the second best receiver in Minnesota, second best pass catcher in Minnesota. I think, round maybe 8, preferably round 9 is where I'd like to take a chance on him. But I just don't see him, A, impacting Justin Jefferson to the level that should knock him off the top spot, and B, taken ahead of those guys. No.
Do you think, okay, so you would have taken Lockett, Pittman, and Cooks ahead of Addison?
I would have taken Pittman ahead of him. Probably would still take Lockett ahead of him. And there was the third one?
Brandon Cooks.
No, I'd take him ahead. Okay.
I get the argument. I mean, Lockett's a loser with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Pittman's a loser with Anthony Richardson. That's what people are going to be thinking. Brandon Cooks is, we already talked about him. I get it. Heath, can you justify it? Addison in round 7 ahead of those 3 guys.
Yes, I would put him ahead of those 3 guys. And I think he's going to be a number 3 wide receiver. I've actually got him just ahead of Mike Williams.
All right, let's super fast justify it. James Conner ahead of DeAndre Swift. Heath, can you justify that one? James Conner ahead of DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, both of them are going to miss time with injuries, but when James Conner is healthy, he gets to be a full-time running back.
Okay, I like it. James Cook over A.J. Dillon and Samaje Perine. James Cook, those were 3 consecutive picks. James Cook to Jacob Gibbs, A.J. Dillon to Marone Berkson, and Jamie took Samaje Perine, 87th overall. Jamie, can you justify James Cook first in that trio? Cook, Dillon, Perine.
I mean, clearly, if he's the lead guy in Buffalo and those other guys are going to be in backup situations, if Javonte Williams is healthy, clearly Samaje Perine doesn't go in that range. A.J. Dillon, we know, is still behind Aaron Jones. And so, I think if you're banking on who's the best running back in Buffalo, you want it to be James Cook. But the fact that they added Dameon Williams and Latavius Murray feels like it's going to be another situation of just multiple guys touching the ball in a very frustrating scenario for a guy that doesn't necessarily profile as lead running back, wasn't lead running back in Georgia, for example. So will he take that step forward? That's what Jacob Gibbs is hoping for. I think we all would love to see it, but no, I cannot justify James Cook ahead of those guys.
Who's your favorite in that trio? And Damian Harris, by the way, going to the Buffalo Bills. Who's your favorite in that group?
Dameon Williams, right? Sorry.
Yeah. So that was Cook, Dillon, Perine. Who do you have rank highest?
Right now, I believe I have Perine ranked highest, just with the hope that he's going to have a big role in Denver to start the season.
Yeah, I've got them all within 5 spots. I've got Perine at 76, Dillon at 80, and Cook at 81.
All right, let's talk about Carolina. Adam Thielen gets drafted in round 8 ahead of Jonathan Mingo, who I believe went in round 9, the rookie second-round pick, 5th wide receiver selected in the NFL draft. Just want to make sure I have my rounds right here. But Thielen ahead of Mingo. Yeah. Thielen was middle of round 8, and the last pick of round 9 was Mingo. Heath, justify the old man ahead of the rookie.
Yeah, he's a veteran, and he's proven it. And no, I would rather have Mingo over Thielen. So I don't agree with it. But, I mean, there are plenty of question marks about Jonathan Mingo. You can ask how anyone would expect him to beat out on Thielen when he couldn't beat out the guys for more work at Ole Miss last year. So I think there's reason it's justifiable, but I'd rather just go with the young guy because if Thielen hits his upside, I think he's probably like wide receiver 24. Mingo might have a lot more upside than that.
Jamie, I'm not going to ask you to justify Chris Olave going ahead of Michael Thomas. I am going to ask you to justify Chris Olave going 66 picks ahead of Michael Thomas. Is that right? Do you think he should be 5 rounds ahead of Michael Thomas? 5.5?
Yes, just because we've now seen Michael Thomas just not stay healthy. So this is hopefully a receiver, on the rise that's going to have a huge sophomore campaign. There's a lot to love about what he showed as a rookie, and hopefully will continue to show even with, new quarterback. But I think Derek Carr will be better for him than what he had last year. So if Thomas is healthy, it's a steal, absolute steal. But how can you count on it at this point?
All right, last one here. Heath, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, all go undrafted. Justify it.
Well, you're not there in the draft. AJ was drafting for you, and we already talked about he doesn't know you very well. He should have taken each of those quarterbacks with your last 3 picks. And then I chose Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones over those 3 guys. I think I was the last guy to take a quarterback and took those 2 guys together.
Kyler Murray and who?
Daniel Jones.
Oh, all right. Just had to make sure. All right. Yeah, look, I mean, take your pick of those late round quarterbacks. But in this league, if you're having quarterback issues, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, and Geno Smith are on the waiver wire. Jamie, where are the characters in Disney? How come they don't have characters walking around anymore?
Well, they have them like at planned meet and greets. So,
yeah, what's that all about? Let's get more characters.
You see them walking around when they're going to their spots.
I saw one character in 2 days, the Magic Kingdom. Also really like the Aladdin ride. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, you haven't been there in a while, so the kids enjoy themselves?
They had an amazing time. I mean, more rides. Buzz Lightyear was the smash hit for my son. We had a great time. We really did.
You just went to Magic Kingdom or any other parks?
Magic Kingdom twice.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, now that everybody can see your arms in high definition, show everybody those. No,
Oh,
the other side, the hairy side.
Yeah, there they are. Yep.
There they are.
Very hard to put suntan lotion on arms like that.
Gym membership's paying off.
Cancel that after the 2-week trial. When we come back, we got your emails, fantasyfootball@cbsi.com.
We're not done.
We're not done. We are back with some emails. I told you we'd have a 35-minute show. The problem is I don't have a clock in front of me. I have no idea how long it's been. It's been more than that, though, I'm sure. All right. This is an interesting email from Dominic in Austria. He says, Dear Wolfgang, Arnold, Sigmund, and Christoph, and those are Austrian celebrities. So he has a draft system and wants to know your thoughts on it. This draft order is set differently in each round, according to the following schedule. You make a pick and then you're moved back 5 spots the next round. So if you have the first overall pick in round 1, you will get the 6th pick in round 2 and the 11th pick in round 3. The person with the first pick in each round drafts a player at a position, and then everyone else in that round has to draft the same position. And that's quarterback, running back 1, running back 2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, tight end, and then flex 1, and I think flex 2. So basically you're trying to get a positional advantage as well, but you're moving back 5 or 6 spots, 5 spots the next round for every round. So he says it's working out great for them. And what do you guys think about that system?
I mean, if you enjoy it, go ahead. I would assume 101 should be Kelsey, right?
Yeah, that's what he was saying. That was one of his questions. If you had 101, would you take Kelsey? Because the positional advantage. Okay, so let's say you had 101.
Imagine you got to be your first pick is 12 pick as a tight end. That's just awful.
I'm just thinking like the amount of trouble that we have getting people to pick at the right time when we're just doing a standard draft where you pick at the same time every round. Imagine how long it would take telling people they were on the clock.
I do 2 drafts that are similar to this, and when I say similar, just because there's position requirements. So you've done this draft before, Heath. It's our office draft, which has ranged from anywhere from 22 teams to 28 teams, I think, depending on how many people join. And so the first round we have to draft either running backs or quarterbacks. The second round is wide receivers or tight end. I forget how the formula goes, but you can only draft those 2 positions. Then round 3 is a free for all. I guess the only draft. I was going to say the 30 deep basketball one we do, but that's also free for all. But yeah, it just makes it more complicated. Look, I mean, it's if you have fun doing it that way, go ahead. But yes, I would say Travis Kelce should be the first pick of the draft.
All right, this one's from Anthony. I traded. He wants to know if he gave up too much for Bijan. I traded Rachaad White, pick 106, 107, and a 2024 first-round pick for 101. So to get Bijan Robinson, he gave up Rachaad White, 106, 107, and a 2024 first-round pick. It is a super flex dynasty league. He still has 102, 202, and 203. So he can now take Bijan Robinson and the quarterback of his choice. But he gave up Rachaad White, 106, 107, and 2024 first-round pick. Heath, did he give up too much?
I don't think so. Definitely not if Bijan hits. But I will say, I kind of think it might be, if it is, it's because it's a super flex league. 106 and 107 are a lot more valuable, especially this year in a super flex league, than they are in a 1 quarterback league. But I have sent an offer to, our rookie draft starts today, and I sent an offer to Dan, and we're just waiting for Dan to wake up and decide what he's going to do, because he is on the clock. And I offered him 103, a bunch of 3rd and 4th round picks this year, 2024 first, 2024 second, 2025 first, 2025 second for Bijan and Mark Andrews. So 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and Elijah Moore. And he's probably
Heath, I forgot to ask you, I'm doing a startup dynasty league. Do you want in? Dave and Jamie are pretty much it, I think.
Yeah.
Dave was on the fence. Dave was like, I don't want to be in a league with your friends, was essentially the gist.
Oh, is this real?
This is 100% real because my dynasty league.
Invited me to anything.
My dynasty league ended, so I have to restart it and be the commissioner.
Yes, I'm in.
Oh, cool. All right. I got to get that going.
I would say, to answer the question, I like the trade. I do agree with Heath. It's a lot to give up in Superflex. The question becomes is, and I think you should, but how much more do you value Bijan over Jahmyr Gibbs? Because if there's a run on quarterbacks and a receiver, Gibbs may fall to 6. I doubt it.
Well, he has 102. Remember, he has 102 also.
No. But 102 would be, you got to take your Richardson. You know, you can't make that mistake in a super flex league. So, but again, though, if you really need running back, you could play it the way you're talking at him. You take Gibbs at 102, and then you might be looking at whoever's left of Stroud or Young at 106. If it falls that way, I doubt it. But again, you might. But in any event, and this is something Dan should consider. If Dan is giving up Bijan and Mark Andrews, by the way, which is insane. But if he's giving up those two players, those picks the next couple of years for Heath are going to be late first round picks.
That was the other part of this equation. This guy has 102, 106, and 107. Which one of those did you earn this year? If he was a true 102 roster, then I'm not sure I want to give up that much and a 2024 first to get Bijan, because I'm not sure.
Considering considering he has pick 202, I think he probably had the second worst record, but he said the 2024 first round pick that he's giving up is not his own. All right, but we should move on.
Yeah. I would absolutely make that deal, because the thing that swings it for me is how much do you value Rachaad White? Because if Rachaad White hits, then you're giving up a lot of first round capital and potentially, a top 15 running back, to get Bijan and Richardson. But you are, if you're hitting the reset button, no matter how you're resetting it, to get those two players is a pretty good place to start. Bijan Robinson and Richardson.
All right, from Dan, who should I drop from this list? Full PPR 10-team league. Just drop one player. A.J. Dillon, Javonte Williams, Khalil Herbert, Isiah Pacheco, Cortland Sutton, Alec Pierce, Sky Moore.
It's between Sutton and Pierce for me. I'd probably drop Sutton.
I'd probably drop Pierce.
From Sean, PPR league, 1-year keeper, round 6 value, and you can only pick one. 10-team league, 4-point per passing touchdown. All right. Pick Jalen Hurts, Garrett Wilson, or Ken Walker.
You're only keeping one of those?
Mm-hmm. And it's 3 receivers.
4 points per passing touchdown.
Yeah. I wonder, does the 4-point per passing touchdown actually make Jalen Hurts more valuable?
Relative to other quarterbacks, yes, but not relative to other positions.
Yeah, I'm keeping Wilson.
All right. From Cody, from the city that is about to have the annual Run for the Roses. All right. That actually happened. Congratulations to the horse whose name I cannot pronounce. Don't know how it's said. So he's from Louisville, and he needs help with pick 102 in a Superflex league. 101 is going to be Bijan Robinson. Who do I take at 2? I need some wide receiver help, but should I take Richardson? Here's the thing. He has Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, and Ryan Tannehill. He has Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore, Elijah Moore, Nico Collins, Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore. He has Mark Andrews and some decent running backs, but actually, I don't know. I think he could justify taking a running back. He has Dameon Pierce, Zeke, Akers, ETN, James Cook, Jeff Wilson. All right, the question, I guess, is Bijan's going to be one. He's got Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, and Tannehill. Do you still go with a quarterback in the Superflex league, or do you take a different position?
I'm taking the quarterback because that's so much more trade capital. So if you want to try and flip whether Richardson or Lawrence, I'd probably try and flip Richardson, just the unknown, for maybe a running back and a quarterback. So I'm not passing on Richardson.
I'd probably see if I could what receiver I could get for 102.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably see what I could get to move down to 105 or 106. But if I stay at 2, I'm taking Richardson. I mean, Tannehill might be gone anyways. You might only have 2 quarterbacks by the time we get to November.
Okay. 35-minute show. You're welcome, guys.
You got the numbers right. 3 and 5, 5 and 3.
All right. We'll talk to y'all later. On Wednesday, we got another show. On Thursday, we got another show. Thank you very much. Oh, that's right. The Dynasty show. Duh. I'm sorry. I'm really out of it. I'm sorry, Heath. But we'll talk to you tomorrow with Heath's Dynasty show on Fantasy Football Today. See ya.